Hello, everyone. This is Regina Sun, and welcome to today's Legal Moment. Today's topic is on the Student Loan Forgiveness Act. Before I get into a depth analysis of the act, I want to introduce my guest for today. Her name is Lynette, and she is not only a teacher, but she has studied a little bit on the Student Forgiveness Act as well as its implications. So I want to introduce Lynette, and would you please just kind of give us an overview of the history of the act and why it's so important for Congress to study it today?
All right, thank you, Regina. Basically, what the act talks about is before in 2007, there was a 6.8% interest rate in student loans. Democrats took over after 2007 and we voted to lower that interest rate to a 3.4%. Well, it's scheduled to go back up to 6.8% in 2012-2013 school year. Now, what this means is that interest rates are being doubled from 3.4 to 6.8%. And that threatens a lot of the educational endeavors of students because, like I said, it doubles. Now, the House members voted in favor of the $5.9 billion act to maintain the current interest rates for the Stafford loans. However, we were currently waiting for the U.S. Senate to pass the bill. If we do not alleviate this situation, then starting July 1, there will be a 6.8% interest rate on student loans.
Thank you. Now, in reading the act, the writer of the bill suggested that there are 5 main purposes of the act, and they are to increase purchasing power, strengthen economic recovery, restore fairness in financing higher education, putting caps on interest rates on federal student loans, and the 5th one being refinancing opportunities for private borrowers. Now, one of the arguments of the act is, look, education is no longer a commodity. It has become something that is only beneficial to certain individuals, and for everyone else, having these student loans only decreases the chances of financial stability. So, Lynette, as you study the act, do you think that education is something that we should value in our community, or do you think we should focus on making sure families know how to maintain financial stability?
I think it's a little bit of both. If you make the decision to endeavor into higher education, you have to think that a whole new generation will be impacted if we double our interest rates. That will impact starting a business, it will impact buying a car, or even trying to get advanced degrees, because as I said before, if you are paying more on those interest rates, it takes away from the budget and the expenses that you have. So whether or not it is a commodity or not, if this generation goes into this, they are still going to be sacrificing a lot within their future. Currently, there are more than 7 million undergrads that have subsidized loans, so you can only imagine how this will impact our current generation.
And speaking of those numbers, I mean, when you have something like over 7 million people that are under subsidized loans, and you think about the unemployment rate, and you also think about how many undergrad students who do not do whatever it is that they studied to do, or who go back and change their major, do you really think a lot of times people aren't using these student loans to seriously consider what they want to do versus using it just to continue to buy time as they figure it out?
I mean, well, definitely a lot of people take advantage of student loans. I've had many of friends and acquaintances say they're not sure what direction they want to take, so they just go back to school and live off that refund check for a while. And while I do think that's extremely unfortunate, like I said, for it to still affect the masses would also hurt our community as a whole. I know a lot of people have also argued that college is not for everyone, so this would really force certain people to make sacrifices and to make huge decisions as to whether or not they want to take on this extra bill. But what worries me, Regina, is that in the future, we will have even more issues come arise because people can't pay these loans. What happens if you can't pay that interest rate, or you can't pay on that loan? That also affects our economy as a whole.
So do you think if the interest rates on the loan continues to increase, that it would force people to take seriously what it is that they're going to go back to school to study? Or do you think they will continue to take on the attitude that, I'm just going to continue to buy my time while I figure it out what it is that I want to do? Recognizing, again, I'm sure this isn't the majority of people that are doing it, but because it is a substantial number of people that do not utilize the degrees that they obtain, that it can cause a problem in taking seriously the value of education and using it to be a productive member within the society.
All of those are very valid arguments. The interesting fact is that a lot of people in Congress are having these discussions because initially Republicans and some other parties were for the increase of the interest rates. That is, they wanted it to happen. But now, as I said before, the Student Loan Forgiveness Act is coming into place with both parties to try to alleviate this huge increase in debt. Also, there are rumors that the White House has threatened to veto the bill if it's even passed. So that's interesting as well. There are definitely great arguments on both sides, but I think at the end of the day, we should think what's best for our country. How will our country be affected?
Well, thank you so much, Lynette, for coming in and speaking to our listeners today. And listeners, I want to know what you think. Tweet me at Regina Sun ESQ and tell me, do you think it's a good idea to put a cap on these interest rates, so thereby passing the Student Loan Forgiveness Act? Or do you think that we should hold off on putting a cap and force students to really evaluate what it is they want to do so that they are not going into the loan process by stacking up huge amounts of debt without realizing what it is they're going to do to contribute back to society? That is, again, at Regina Sun ESQ. Thanks for listening, and that is today's Legal Moment.